Hey y'all, and welcome back to the Lies We Left podcast. I am Ashley, and I'm really excited for today's episode. We have been talking a lot about really
trauma,
abuse.
It's spiritual abuse, family abuse, generational abuse.
Pretty much. No, I mean, it's been a rough several weeks. So this episode is called the healing episode, and in this episode we're going to be talking about some healing aids that have kind of helped us throughout our time healing and stuff like that. So it is unscripted. Not gonna lie, we don't really have a full plan.
Well, they didn't need to know that.
Well, now they do. So there really is no plan. We just wanted to come on here and have a more positive episode following all of the stories that we just got through telling and stuff like that. So let's take it away. AIDS.
No, don't say that.
No.
Healing oh my god.
Backstory. Ashley and I were talking about this kind of an episode, and we both got really excited, and Ashley was like, so what do we call it? And therapy didn't seem right. I mean, even though that's probably
no, it's not
happened.
Therapy.
And so we kind of decided on the term healing aids because there's just different.
When did we decide on that term?
I don't Zoom call.
I was just saying,
not healing aids. I don't think I agreed to that.
You were very tired that
I think
morning.
it was you were dealing with a really bad migraine when we had that meeting. But
well, I would have.
Ashley and I like the term healing aids. I don't know what everybody else thought.
It's
but
not
Ashley
called healing aids.
And Rachel likes healing aids.
Can we just get into it?
Sure.
Sorry.
So
healing.
You sound like you have something to say, so say it.
What are some ways that you guys are healing?
I
do you
guess
self-soothe?
Sorry.
Come on, Ashley.
Okay, I was trying to think of like where to even start because I mean, there's been a lot of things. I guess starting out, I mean, obviously the EMDR therapy was really challenging at first, and it was. I don't know that felt healing at first, though. I feel like it took a really long time for that to actually feel like it was helping and that I was healing and getting what I needed to get out of it because I felt like crap after every single episode. I was very drained. I was super tired and just didn't want to do anything. And I didn't know what to do with any of this information.
Session? You mean?
Huh?
The therapy session?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't want them to think it was the podcast.
Oh, no. Yeah, my therapy sessions when I did have them. So I would say that at the time when we were dealing with all this more directly, that definitely was more helpful for me at the time. What about for y'all?
No, wait, what was?
Like, what was a healing aid to you at the time?
No, I mean, like, what was healing? Did I miss that? What healing?
Like the EMDR.
Oh, okay, because I thought you just said that it wasn't helpful.
No, I'm saying in the moment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
But like after I started doing it for a while, I did start seeing, I think, the benefits from it.
So I guess I kind of have to start because I've been doing this the longest. It took a lot for me to get into a therapist office. There was a huge amount of fear and anxiety about exposing myself to somebody else with the kind of upbringing that I had or did not have. I was afraid of being broken. So before that happened, one of the things for me was books. Like I would read books and books and books. I can't tell you how many books I've read. One of the first ones that I started reading was The Power of Positive Thinking because my mindset on life was very negatively based and kind of the whole mindset and mantra, if you don't expect anything, you won't be disappointed kind of a thing. So changing my viewpoint and thinking more positively about things kind of made me started shifting my mindset. Well, maybe I can think differently about this. And maybe if I think differently about this, maybe I should get help in this area. So that kind of set me off on reading books, and then I would share those books with everybody else. And then I started going to therapy, and that's when I kind of like had a breakdown. But in going through therapy, then once I started healing, I started preaching therapy. to everybody else. Well, to my sisters. I wouldn't even tell anybody else. I was so like, therapy was something that I was still wondering about if it was taboo, if it was right to do, if I was doing the right thing by seeing a therapist that wasn't Bible based or what do they call them, Christian counselors. You know, I fought with all of those things and going to it.
So what were some other things, Rachel, that helped you heal? Fun things that like you still do?
Meditation, absolutely meditation. I do guided meditations for self-esteem and having a positive image on life. Meditation really helps. Being in nature really, really, really helps me.
Me too.
There's just something about being in nature. Like I feel the closest to God when I'm in nature, and I feel God's presence in nature like I've never felt anywhere else before. And that's honestly one of my most. That's when I'm able to connect the most spiritually. I feel like is when I'm in nature.
I feel the exact same way. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting that you say that, because that's like almost my moment of like worship too, and like just feeling that connection.
Mm-hmm.
What about Brooke and Aaron? What are y'all? Now I'm talking about, we can talk about like back in the day, and then talk about like things that I guess we do now too.
You go.
Animals.
Mm.
I love animals.
You have a really strong connection with animals,
I love them.
and they've always loved you.
My dogs are my world. I will stop everything to help an insect get across the way. Even the guys at the construction sites, they will laugh at me for picking up these bugs, but they have feelings, you know? And I feel like maybe I could just help them. Building and restoring furniture, that is very cathartic for me. Just making things beautiful. It kind of like, I have a piece I'm working on now, and Steven got home and he was like, "Babe, why are you talking to this piece of furniture?" And I was like, "Because it's from the 1950s. And it's been worn, broken in, and battered and abused. And I feel like I'm this piece of furniture, and I'm being gentle with it. I'm telling it what I'm doing. Yes, you're going through pain being sanded, but I promise you're going to have a new life. You're going to hold my vintage records, and you're going to have worth again if you just trust me in the process." So it's very, it's like talk therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very soothing. Music, I'm sure this is because I really got into the emo stage. I love music of all kinds, and I will just blast up the music as loud as possible and just really get lost in the lyrics, in the violins, the cellos. It's very cathartic. Movies, I love laughing at like classic movies. There's nothing funnier than, just laughing, and there's something freeing about it. I know I call all of you girls for therapy. Just having someone to bounce ideas off of, that helps me. I know I mentioned in my story the Holocaust documentaries. That's very empowering for me. I recently downloaded an app called Headspace.
I love that app.
Oh, it's so expensive.
It's expensive?
Yes.
It's just a yearly membership?
Yes. But they gave me 6 months free.
Do you listen to Andy's voice?
I actually do. Steven and I listened to him other night.
I love Andy's voice.
But
his accent, is he Australian?
I don't know. But Steven and I went to sleep the other night meditating
his voice
and doing a breathing exercise.
It's so relaxing. It's like, I wish I had Anthony Hopkins' voice for meditation, for guided meditation. I would be up for that.
Can they make a Cary Grant one?
Cary Grant?
Oh.
I do believe he be dead right now, so
You could recreate his voice. That would be very soothing. But no, those are just some of the things I do.
what about you, Aaron?
Well, I have a history of doing things, quitting them, ignoring my feelings. All this other stuff is not very positive. So, I don't know. In the past, I don't know. Let's see. I've done meditation. I think the thing that has been the constant, though, is talking to my sisters. That has been a constant for me. I think also it helps to help others. Like when in those moments where I'm not wanting to address my mental health, like with working with kids on my caseload and bringing them happiness, it's therapeutic. Yeah, it's not addressing my issues, but you know, let's be honest, healing isn't a complete, you know, straight line. You have moments where you have success, and then you have moments where I think healing, you have to work on it, and you have to be dedicated to your healing process, and I haven't always been dedicated to it. There have been times where it's just been too stressful. It's been too much. My environment was not geared for me healing. And so I think, you know, you turn to vices to not so much numb yourself, but to cope. And so I think like my story a lot has been of that. And I'm trying to turn those tables and do things that are therapeutic. Journaling is therapeutic for me. I hope and pray no one ever reads my journals.
As your sister, I swear, if anything happens to you,
you will straight up read them, Brooke.
No.
Don't even lie.
No, I will burn after reading.
Brooke will read them.
No,
Brooke
I will
will
burn after
no.
reading.
Oh my
There you
God,
go.
no.
There we go.
No, Brooke, you will
Our
read
producer
them.
is laughing his head off.
No,
right
you
now.
you read Dad's journal entries, okay?
Oh
So
my gosh.
no, you will
Oh, so
read
much.
mine. Gosh, I'm so glad I'm gonna be dead whenever I'm dead, because it's gonna be so embarrassing. It's gonna be so embarrassing if any of y'all have to.
So,
Wow. Okay.
as all of y'all were talking, there were a few things that I thought of as far as currently that helped me. Because like I said, in the past, EMDR definitely was not helpful at first, but then became helpful over time. And now, to be honest, I'm kind of glad that I'm done with all that, because it's really hard work. But anyway, as far as today, there are a few things that really are healing. And one of the things that I think of like instantly is not only time, but like talking to my sisters, all of my sisters, because I do feel like that sometimes my sisters are the best ones who understand me. And it's just healing, because I don't know how to explain it to anyone, but I feel like we just have this bond that is just truly, it's magical. I don't know.
I wish
I
I
don't
could
know
come up
what
with
else.
a sound I can make.
I know,
with that.
right?
Gosh,
I think another big thing for all of us has really been to learn to understand ourselves.
Yes.
Ooh,
And
yeah.
and learning about what makes, you know, what composes Ashley, what composes, you know, Aaron, what different quirks and things make up that individual, because we're all incredibly different. And what helps one person isn't going to help another person necessarily. Like Ashley and I really connect strongly with being in nature. Maybe that doesn't do it. For Aaron does yoga a lot, and that
I used to. Now I can't.
Oh.
But I do want to get back to it. I'm going through physical therapy right now, and so I'm having to not do it. But I really do like yoga.
But understanding who we are as individuals, I know learning for me about the Enneagram just made so many things realign and recenter myself as, oh, it's not me just being a Grinch. It's not me just doing it this. I'm not, this way. It's because I'm this kind of personality, and this is what makes me comfortable, and this is what makes me
that is a
not.
good point to make. I never understood myself. I know you did that Enneagram, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
But for me, it was taking the Myers-Briggs test, finding out I was an INTJ. And I'm not going to go into what that means, but it's basically like if you're a woman with this, you're 2% of the population. That's how rare it is. And it opened up a whole world like, oh, okay, it's okay to be how I am. But then also applying the DID stuff, now I get my parts involved. What does little girl Brooke need right now? And letting those little parts that were stuffed, well, what do they need? And just working as a team.
Ooh, long showers. Like scalding hot long showers.
Yeah, I do the same.
I love them. I will
Yeah.
just sit in my shower and just like decompress.
And the funny part, if
See,
you
that's- yeah.
you like hot showers scientifically,
What?
it means you
I don't
have-
know if I believe that.
Well, I don't know, but
They-
that's what they say. That's a sign of childhood trauma.
Oh my God.
If
I feel
you-
like everything on TikTok, it's like, if you like sugar on in your tea, childhood trauma, or, something like that. I don't know.
that wasn't from TikTok though.
Yeah.
Oh. So one thing that also kind of what Erin has talked about too, I recently moved to adoptions, and I used to do investigations and alternative response before that for 5 years. But being on this side of adoptions is really different because I work with a lot of kids who do not have a place to go. They don't have permanent placement, so we call them like recruitment kids because we're constantly recruiting for them and trying to find them a home. And one thing that's been healing for me is really trying to figure out a way to be there for them in the way that no one was there for me at my age. And I'm not saying y'all weren't there for me. I'm just saying that as far as like getting that need met, that void met. And that's one thing that has been, I think, really healing, is trying and showing these kids that, like, I'm not going anywhere, and that, I'll always be there, and they can call me. Let's have these honest conversations, and trying to find a different way to communicate with them. And like most recently, I told this girl who had a horrific history of sex abuse. I just told her, I didn't even know her, and I just told her, I want you to know that I'm proud of you, and, I hope you know that what happened to you is not your fault and it does not define you. And she thanked me, and she was like, I really appreciate that. And stuff like that, like working with these kids has been healing. So that is another thing. And like I said, being with y'all, and then really nature.
I will say that for me, the relationships I didn't get to have that were robbed from me,
Oh, yes.
going after healthy older women relationships, like a mentor.
Yeah.
That finding that
Yeah.
one person, like,
We should
Yeah.
talk about that for a minute. Who
Oh
are
my
some
gosh.
people that
my gosh.
who are some people that really like filled a void for us that were very healing to us?
My in-laws. Oh my God. My in-laws. They love me like I'm their daughter. And my mother-in-law, she's so precious to me. And she's one of my closest friends. Yeah. They showed me who and what a family does, and they broke down a lot of walls without even trying. But in they're very quiet people. They're very reserved, but from the day that I met them, they've always just been so kind to me. And I love cooking with my mother-in-law, and I love how she deals with my kids, and she's been the greatest. She was obviously we talk about Terry all the time, and we talk about how awesome Terry is and how
Her favorite subject.
yeah, my favorite subject. But it's because he had absolutely amazing parents, and I run everything by them. If Terry and I both are having a decision, I'm like, well, let's talk to my in-laws and get their advice, and just,
You mean his parents?
well, I'll say, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They're so important, and they matter so much in my life because they filled a huge void that I never really didn't know I was looking for. Yeah.
Just recently.
What about you, Brooke?
Well, okay, so obviously our grandmother, I know not everybody had the same relationship with her, but that was the beginning of seeing how a motherly love should be towards her grandchild. So that planted the seeds. And then obviously, like my best friend when I was 16, 17, her mom was so, so kind. And I can just hear her voice. Brooke, is that the wisest decision to make? But only she could say it with,
I love her.
With such love. And I just loved her. She was always ready to sit down and dive into issues. I never met anyone so willing to just uncover everything, and she was never shocked.
Is this where you got that from?
Maybe. I don't know. But
No, she just wants the dirty details.
and then of course Martha, I mean, my goodness, when I think of Mother's Day, like that's who I think of celebrating. Martha is my mom, you know? And then I don't want to steal your thunder, Ashley, but Granny just was amazing. Like
She really was.
she just would accept us, and she would say, "Come over and have a cup of coffee."
That was so fun that one time we did that.
Yeah. She really wanted all of y'all to come over. That was a lot of fun.
I think for me, I mean, there's just I'm so thankful that I've had a like different seasons. I think different seasons called for different people in my life. I can remember the two women that we grew up in that one house with.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They were very kind, and they were just amazing to us.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I don't think they understand how important.
I don't think they do.
How important and how much they probably saved us from more abuse
Absolutely.
than
Yeah.
we actually endured. We do
And
owe a
through
lot
this
to them.
podcast, 3 of us were able to reconnect with one of those women.
Oh, you did? Wait, you?
Or, sorry, 2.
Oh, I was like, oh, y'all didn't tell me about this.
But she unleashed this confidence, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And she hooked me on these books, and then I told Ashley about it, and now we're both reading these books. And
Well, I'm
it's
too.
just, oh, you are?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Don't leave me out of that.
So
No, so those two women, and then I think that you know, there were 2 teachers. One teacher who specifically was really good at math and science.
God, I love that woman still.
She really helped me start understanding math, and then the other woman who we bartered classes for, she really helped me understand math. And then my ex-husband's mother was my first mother figure. She was my first mother figure.
she was so sweet.
She was so sweet. She would invite me over for tea. Whenever I came over, you know, my then husband and I, you know, we would come into their house, and then we would, you know, go ride off 4-wheelers or whatever. But she took every opportunity whenever I came in to make sure that I felt welcomed. And she would make me a cup of tea. We would talk, and she would say, "I'm praying for you." She was actually the first person who told me that I have a hard, whenever she mentions the word prayer, that she can see a wall being built up around me. And then another woman, when I was considering adoption, she was very amazing in my life. She really took time to understand me and to just she knew that there was a lot of trauma there, but I don't think she addressed any of it because I just wasn't there. And then let's see. When I was in Young Lives, this was probably the most miraculous thing for me. Something that I didn't even know I needed. Oh, I'm going to start crying. Whew. Oh my gosh. There were a group of women. How many was it? I think it was 5 women. It was 5 women, right? Yeah, 5 women. And they were on the committee for Young Lives. And they and their husbands were just so incredible to me. One woman in particular, she would have my sons and I over to swim. She would meet me for coffee. She was just so kind to me. And then, you know, I don't really talk to them that much, but I do talk to one woman from that committee. And she's always asking me how I'm doing and stuff like that. And then Travis's mother. Mm-hmm. Travis's mother has been a big influence in my life. Mm-hmm. I very much had a wall built up. And it wasn't that I was trying to build up walls against anyone, but she's been very patient with me. Mm-hmm. She, I think, really started showing that she loved me through my sons. Mm-hmm. And she has just been a great support in my life. And then, of course, Granny. I mean, it was a very short relationship, but holy cow.
What a force.
Oh, and then
she was such a force to be reckoned with.
Our aunt. I mean, she's just like this strong woman who doesn't take crap from anyone. And it's just incredible to me. And she's just been, especially after, you know, Robert died, her brother. I mean, she was just there for all of us. And she mm-hmm. lost her mother, her own mother, and her brother that she was very close to mm-hmm. in a matter of months.
Yeah.
And she just took care of us.
She really did.
I'm going to start crying because she's always been there for us. So that's the lifeline of me.
So I really liked what you said, Erin, about like there being seasons for different people. And mm-hmm. I do think that that's kind of a God thing. Mm-hmm. Like I think that people don't come into your life.
Sorry, I forgot our spiritual mentor.
Yeah.
Oh, Holy Mother. Like she has been pivotal in my relationship with mm-hmm. understanding God, with understanding myself, validating the things that I have felt. And I mean, she's this little tiny framed woman, but she has so much spunk in her. Yeah. I mean, it's just insane to me how much spunk she has.
You look at her and you just feel loved.
Oh, yes, of course. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. But I believe that people don't just come into your life for no reason at all. I truly think that, you know, God has a really miraculous way of bringing people into your life when you need them, when you truly need them. And you might not realize it like right then and there. Maybe you do. But I think I've had that kind of throughout my life as well. You know, in high school, the 2 teachers that I mentioned during my story were really important to me. You know, during that time, I mean, my sisters have always been important to me for sure. And, you know, but I think as far as like now goes, or, you know, what once was, I definitely got really close with Granny, Colin's grandmother. And, you know, I got really close to her after Dad passed away, like really close to her, you know, but she was just always so like motherly. She would always call anytime we went on like vacation or something. Like she had to know that we got there safely. She had to know when we were returning. We had to pay her a visit as soon as we got done to tell her all about it. I've never had someone care so much about like me and like what was important to me. You know how sometimes like you'll get with people and they maybe act like they care, but all they do is talk about themselves. Like she just wasn't like that. Like she could sit there for hours and just talk solely about you. and what's going on with you in your life. And it genuinely gave her like joy to hear from other people what was going on. And she was just such an intentional woman. I miss her so, so much. And that's part of why I think 2021 was so hard, just watching her leave this earth. You know, it's just very, very hard. So she was probably like one of the people that, I mean, it was a very, very hard loss, but I'll never forget the time that we had with her. And yeah, I'll never forget that.
So what people may not know about us doing this podcast, we all go through reliving traumas. It triggers us. And one thing for me that I never expected, to hear the stories of our listeners, of them writing in, of their testimonies. Like there is a force happening with people listening to this podcast, and for you to share your experiences with us, that is fueling me on.
Well, it's healing too.
It's healing.
Well, it
It is very
validates.
healing.
It validates, but it also, I don't know. Like I met a few, childhood friends, and we talked. And though we cried, and we had to hear painful things, it was incredible to know. Like, I don't know. It felt like there was this sense of like we're together.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this togetherness. And it's not that we want to be together because, like, it's not that we want to identify as victims of trauma or anything like that. It's that it's just healing to know that it's sad to know that you aren't alone, but it's also healing to know that you aren't.
What a time for that movie. What is it? We Don't Talk About Bruno. Like the whole.
No, that's not a movie. The movie is Encanto, and the song is We Don't Talk About Bruno.
But that song, like the one thing that families don't do is talk about stuff.
Yeah.
And we are getting all this healing. Our listeners are getting healing from talking about it.
And I hope whoever listens to this, our followers, first time listeners, whatever, I hope that you know that, your trauma and anything bad that has ever happened to you, we're not here broken. We're here united. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's the takeaway. We're not broken people. We're united.
Well, that's a good, okay. Do you guys see yourself as survivors? I've always had a problem when people say you were a victim of blank, blank, blank.
Yeah.
I've never liked that because I don't see myself that way, but I've also never seen myself as a survivor. I guess
I've never thought about it.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't like putting it into words, but I have a very good friend who filled out a book for me one time, and she wrote down that if I was a cookie, I'd be a ginger snap because I've got a little bit of bite to me. And I love that. Like, that's what I think about myself. Like,
if I was a cookie,
I'm feisty. I'm a little feisty. I'm a little, just going back to embracing who I am. I'll tell people, I have a really wacky past, but I don't like wearing I'm a survivor,
I'm a survivor.
Okay, I have to tell this funny story. So we're in the car. We're going out to have sushi for Ashley's birthday.
Oh, man.
We're in the
I
car.
feel bad about that.
And Rachel is telling us this. I think we had recorded maybe 2 episodes. This is last year or the year before last.
It was last year.
Last year. So Rachel is telling us the story that she told her coworker. They're talking, and Rachel says, "Yeah, I grew up in the occult."
Oh yeah.
And all the girls are going on, and
Kind
I
of
was
like you with goldfish.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, Rachel, did you say we grew up in a cult, C-U-L-T, or a cult, O-C-C, whatever, how you spell it? And Rachel stops and she goes, oh, I think I said the occult. And we all start laughing, thinking, what is this?
I also call Terry my partner. So yeah. Apparently I do that a lot.
It was just so funny. I can imagine this coworker, oh, okay.
Y'all, okay, so I know in a previous episode we said that marriage was hard and all that, but, I do have to say that marriage has been, it brings out the worst in you, and then it can bring out the best in you as well. But there have been so many healing things that Travis has done. He's, essentially taken on a kid who, had an angry father and all that, and has all this trauma. But it has been healing in those moments where, there's kindness and there's gentleness to have that. What kind of healing, I think, has being married to your husband's brought?
Ugh. Well, that's a big one.
And Ashley, since our producer is your husband, you might need to go first. No, I'm just joking.
I think that with all this coming out, it's maybe helped me and Colin be more relatable, because he's had his own stuff that he's been through in his past, and everybody has their own baggage in life, but I think it helped us relate more on an intimate level, and there were even some things that I shared with him last week about what I was struggling with, and that builds trust when you can tell the person that you're with intimate details about your trauma, because it's not easy. But when you tell them about these super personal, deep, and even maybe sometimes dark moments from your life, there really is trust building behind that, and intimacy that you're building with that person, because you're sharing your deepest, darkest moments with one another. Mm-hmm. And you're being vulnerable. So I think that that's one thing that's helped us, and just kind of the line of communication and boundaries, and what's okay to say or not say, or being more communicative about maybe why I might be more sensitive about something maybe someone else might not be sensitive about. So I think that that's
What was the
probably what I
original
think of.
question? I
How have our husbands
Sorry.
helped us in our healing process, if they have? I know they have, but I'm just saying.
I will say really quick that Colin has been incredibly supportive and loving towards all of this, and has done nothing but be there for me and back me up through all of it, and I'm very appreciative of that, darling.
It is, to go without saying, though, every one of my brother-in-laws has been so supportive through this.
Yeah.
We've always been close to our brother-in-laws. I mean, we absolutely adore them, and we like them.
I hope we do.
Oh, yeah. But no, marriage for me, the second time around, because we worked through so much, and we were really made to, hey, it's now or never. Everything needs to come out. And here's how you're going to... We had the groundwork for a good marriage. We did the hard work. So marriage is the most joyful thing I've ever experienced. It's loving. It's so much fun. I mean, there's so much laughter in my marriage. I can share anything with Steven and not be afraid. Yeah, he might laugh at me. He mostly does. But
I have to say, Steven is very sweet with you. He's also very stern with you sometimes.
He
is. He's like, no, Brooke. But he's so
I
sweet
think
with you.
his words are actually, woman.
I know.
I think all of our husbands really truly know us probably better than we know ourselves. And I do think that all of our husbands, I know, right? It's annoying, but
Bugs me.
you kind of love it, but you kind of hate it at the same time. But I think all of our husbands know how to be there for us in the way that we need, like how to communicate
Terry,
to us.
Rachel's husband, said something to me before Steven and I got married. And he was like, damn it, Brooke, will you just let this good man love you? And he said,
And Terry walked you down the aisle?
Terry walked me down the aisle and gave me away.
Oh.
But when he said that, I was like, yeah, he's a good man. Why shouldn't I let him love me?
Well, and
But-
Travis took you to your high school prom.
Took Ashley to her
Yeah,
high school
He did.
prom.
Yeah.
We danced the night away.
Yeah.
He was the star of the prom. was funny.
Well, because when he found out that your dumb redneck boyfriend,
he was
like
not my
dumped.
boyfriend, just to be clear.
Oh,
I'd
okay.
Never, never date that hick. No.
Okay. By the way, I'm not saying anything negative about redneck, but I'm calling him one because he dumped you for fishing. So there's that. So, but when he found out about it, he genuinely got upset, and he did everything he could to find a motorcycle in the area to take you to your prom. He couldn't find one or something like that. But yeah, he took you to the prom, and I still have that picture.
That's awesome.
Aw.
I know.
He's so great.
It's so sweet.
All
Yeah.
of the guys were great.
And then, I mean, I think like a way that also Travis has brought healing to me is by the way that he loves my family.
Yeah.
He's done a lot for my sisters, and
He bought me a car.
yeah, and I mean he's done that for my other sister a few times, and well, it's because eventually they like broke down or something like that. Anyways, so I mean I think that having a spouse that not only accepts you but accepts your family and loves your family is also very healing for me.
So this is really weird.
Okay.
Well, we all have a very odd sense of humor. So when we talk about trauma, but what the listeners don't know, when we get by ourselves, we will laugh hysterically thinking back on how stupid some of this stuff was.
Well, I think that that's actually a common thing for children who were abused or like raised in that type of environment.
Really?
Because my she's not a physical therapist, I forget what it's called, but personal trainer or whatever, like she grew up in I forget what type of cult it was, but there was a Netflix documentary about it. And she's like, I have this odd sense of humor, and I could tell that you also have this odd sense of humor.
Oh, great.
And everyone that I grew up with has that odd sense of humor as well.
So, Rachel,
So humor is a good
Rachel,
therapy.
what has been healing for you about Terry? Like, how has he helped you? Or
I feel like we talk about him a lot. So I
Well,
wasn't going to say anything.
He's the very first brother-in-law.
That's true. He's very much been the advocate from the beginning of, let's get you help. I love you. Let's get you help. And he's just, we're both very very independent people. But we're together at the same time. That doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people, but he very much, a lot of guys are intimidated by independence in girls, and he's more attracted to it. He thinks it's awesome, and he very much sees who I am as an individual, and he just loves who I am as an individual. And having somebody have that constant love and admiration for who I am as an individual, when everything about myself was, was made to feel weird, odd, out of the ordinary, to have somebody that just loves that about you, and then wants you to invest in yourself and get yourself the kind of help you need, And we were talking about a friend that was listening to the podcast, and we were talking about how we sound normal now, but it's because of a lot of work that we've all done individually. But part of that, for me at least, is just having somebody that sees the brokenness and that isn't afraid of, okay, this is broken, let's get you some help. That's terrifying in the beginning for people going into the idea of going into therapy. It's very scary. You don't know what your reaction is going to be. You don't know what kind of voodoo they're going to do on you. And it's it's really it's life-changing to have somebody whose support is right there, right beside you, and saying, you know, you can do this. And
Yeah.
then after, like, a lot of after, it's very, very hard for me to be open, and it's very hard for me to talk about things in general. But Terry was very good about, you know, grabbing my notebook from therapy and just looking at some of the topics, and he would just kind of ask questions. So what did you, when you wrote this, what did the therapist ask you to ask you this? And he kind of played backup therapist.
So he was essentially, he was not like, this is your journey, this is our journey.
To a certain extent.
I mean, he walked with you
Oh, absolutely.
rather than you walk through it alone.
I love that.
And I guess whenever you want to share, let me know. He was trying to engage with you.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bless you, Brooke.
She just sneezed.
Yeah.
And it was,
I like that.
He was very much, this is an investment in our marriage. And this is something that's going to make me understand you better and deal with you better. And it's worked so far. We've been married for 15 years.
I've got to say that I think a huge part of what is so important to us is not just family, but having a unit. And so if you're listening to this podcast and you don't have that, I urge you to find it. Please find that. And if you don't have it, call us.
I love our get-togethers as
I
a
love
family.
it. I love it. And
I
we
love
have
family
people,
dinners.
I know. I love it too. And we even have people that, you know, we've known for a while or haven't known for a while, and they're always welcome in our homes. They're always.
That's another thing that's healing is bringing in people who
Yes.
we aren't blood
Yeah.
related to.
Yes.
And
yes.
them being a part of our family dinners, our you know, our celebrations, holidays, all that. I love that. I love that. I also think what you said, Rachel, I was at the park one day. And I saw this family in a distance that we grew up with, and I saw them and I yelled out their name or something like that, and we just started talking. It was a great conversation. And then, you know, I shared with the parents, you know, they already knew. Apparently someone had, you know, whatever. So had told them, but so they, I guess, knew, but it was so healing to have them talk with me. And, you know, they said, you know, I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry that you went through this. And, you know, had I known, I would have done something. And just hearing their validation
Yeah.
in that was also very healing as
Yeah.
well.
I didn't realize people's responses would be healing.
Oh,
to
I
me.
know.
I mean, some people's responses have been whatever. Anyways.
But we weren't, that's not why we weren't doing the Lies We Left podcast to connect with people from our past. We were doing it to reach out to people that were dealing with that kind of trauma and abuse. It's an added bonus that people from our past are reaching out to us. It doesn't traumatize us. It's welcomed. And we're really happy to hear from people.
Yeah. So, I mean, are there any other like, what are some tips if you are not in the point right now where you're doing therapy? What's some advice that we can give these people
I think
that are at that point right now?
my first piece of advice is acknowledge what has happened to you. That is the very first step, I think, in anything that you do, is acknowledge what happened to you. If you're having doubts, but it keeps coming up, you know, look into that. Do some journaling, you know, do whatever that will help you look into that. But I would say the very first step is to acknowledge what has happened to you. What do y'all think would be another thing?
I would say start doing one nice thing for yourself each day. If that means getting your nails done,
every day, that'd be great.
If it means, I don't know, going to a monster truck rally.
Self-love.
If it means, yeah,
Yeah,
do
self-love.
one good thing for yourself and watch how it changes you.
Well,
yeah, because you are worthy
And
of
maybe that
doing that.
Maybe that means reading a self-help book. Maybe that means going to our resources list on our website and looking at one of those books. Do one nice thing for yourself to show that you're worthy of love and belonging.
And I'll say really quick too that, you know, with you acknowledging and doing something nice for yourself, if you notice yourself feeling a certain way, if you feel triggered, if you feel, you know, anxious or whatever, please reach out to a therapist for them to help walk you through what you're feeling. And please do not self-isolate, and establish some kind of a support system for yourself.
I think for me, I would recommend like not being hard on yourself.
Yeah.
That's a mistake I make quite often, and I did that a lot in the beginning process, was being hard on myself if I didn't journal that day, if I didn't, you know, do the things I needed to do. I was hard on myself, and I would say being hard on yourself doesn't help you.
No.
It doesn't. And so give yourself grace.
Yeah.
Be the first one to give yourself grace. Yeah.
Brooke, what do you think?
What was the question?
Like tips for people?
I'm a very visual person, so for me, if it's so hard to get stuck in this trap or pit, and you get hyper focused on it. So if there's something visually you can do to get out of it, for me it's watching cute little raccoon videos on TikTok. Maybe
Yeah.
otters. Something to pull you out and just get outside and walk. Get some blood pumping, and just talk to yourself. It's not crazy. Give yourself a hug. Because sometimes my biggest times of weeping and breaking down were when Stephen wasn't there and he couldn't hold me. And I just held myself. And just telling myself, you are loved. You're protected, because that's what I needed.
And I think I'll end with this, that, you know, I said it in my story and I still believe it, that, you know, for any of us, we don't have to know you to believe in you and your story
And love you.
and love you. You know, we just do.
And
We
accept
really
you.
don't. And it's time for you as an individual, if you're listening to this, it's time for you to start believing in yourself, because you really are worth it.
Yep.
100%.
Well, we hope that each of you do as much possible, even if it's just one tiny little thing each day, to show yourself that you are loved and that you are worth it. And we hope that this episode was helpful. You know, we want to not always throw hard subjects at you, and we really want to talk about, you know, the positive part of healing.
And
Because-
please interact with us. Reach out to us, email us, interact with us on our Facebook page or whatever. We'd love to hear from y'all, chat with y'all.
Absolutely.
Or reach out to someone who you think would be part of your healing process, or who has in the past, and maybe they can help now.
Yeah.
Well, we love y'all. Continue to love yourself and do the hard work
Thank you
of
for
healing.
listening.
Thank you for listening. We love y'all.